I'm not sure how many of you all are aware of this, but a man that goes by the name of Sarah McBride was just elected as our first trans member of Congress. Now, they want us to acknowledge this man as a woman. They want us to call this man Congresswoman. And they want this man to be able to use all of the women-only facilities on Capitol Hill. Well, in response to this, Congresswoman Nancy Mace introduced a new bill that will block men who pretend to be women from using women's restrooms, using women's locker rooms, and other women's only spaces. Now, this is causing people to have a complete meltdown. This is like the trans version of 9/11. You would think that thousands of people lost their lives in the way that people are reacting to this bill. But it's a simple bill. It plainly, simply says that, hey, men who pretend to be women cannot use the women's bathrooms on Capitol Hill. They cannot use the women's locker rooms, whatever. Now, it's important to note that this Sarah McBride fella, he will have his own private bathroom as a member of Congress. He will have his own office. He will have his own bathroom. There are also gender-neutral bathrooms around Capitol Hill that he can use. But the left is making a huge deal of him not being able to use women's restrooms, right? It's not like there's one restroom on Capitol Hill. You know what I mean? And this guy is forced to use the men's restroom like he should be using. No, this man has access to a private bathroom, has access to all of the gender-neutral bathrooms, but he wants to use the women's bathrooms. And there are a lot of insane weirdos that are rallying behind this dude who are pretending like this is an act of violence against trans people. They're acting like this is some sort of genocide just because mentally ill men will no longer be able to use bathrooms with women on Capitol Hill, right? So the left's response to this is basically they're threatening to find Nancy Mace and hurt her. They've been threatening that they're going to track her down, find her in a bathroom, and assault her. They're threatening to unalive her. It's some really whacked out stuff, and actually Nancy Mace was just speaking at some sort of event, and some trans weirdo stood up and had to be restrained from attacking her because he's triggered by men not being able to use women's restrooms. And I want you all to understand, this is their mentality. You literally tell them, hey, women are uncomfortable with you in their bathrooms, and their response is to respond not with words, but with violence. They think that's an appropriate response, and they're being told that this is okay by the mainstream media and by left-wing politicians. Hey, if we don't want some grown weirdo man with some weird fetish in bathrooms with our little girls, hey, it's okay to attack these people who stop you from using women's bathrooms. It's absolutely insane. But I want to go ahead and show you some of the insanity, and then I'll be right back with more.
We have a lot of responsibilities too. Ro and I.
I'm sorry. We're living with that in real time right now. This is ridiculous. It is the day after Trans Day of Visibility. We have had dozens of trans people die this year because of the hate and lies that you are spreading. And if we want an internet, are we building an internet with free speech for everyone or just the privileged few? Are you going to stand up for the lives of trans people, black and brown people? Are we fighting for justice or are we fighting for big tech?
We respect freedom of speech.
God loves him, I love him,
right.
but his penis isn't going to be in my bathroom. So, at any rate, but we have a responsibility. If you're pro-man watching me undress in a dress.
So naturally, the left is now labeling anyone who doesn't want this dude in bathrooms with women, they're labeling them as far-right extremists. So you're a far-right extremist if you don't want your 7-year-old daughter in the bathroom with a grown offender, you know what I mean? A grown man in a wig and a dress and some lipstick who's very obviously mentally ill, if you don't want those type of people sharing the bathrooms with your daughters, then you're a far-right extremist that deserves to, or you belong in prison. That's the mentality that's coming from the left, and they're wondering why people stood up and rejected the left so hard during the last election. And the more and more they push this insanity, the less and less popular it gets. Like a few years ago, people would be scared. I don't think anyone in Congress would have introduced this bill a couple of years ago. But like I said, and I keep telling you all, the pendulum is swinging. The culture is changing. And don't get me wrong, everyone, for the most part, most people in their right minds have rejected this nonsense since day one. It's just that now people are more vocal about it. They're not as intimidated. They understand that people have their back, and people are just fed up with it. So it's not like we feel any differently now. It's just that a lot of people are now willing to speak out about it. Now, you know me, I've been speaking out about this for years, right? I was never scared about how people would feel about me or what people would say. I was never scared about losing job opportunities or losing viewers. I'm going to speak the truth. And the truth is that these men have no business in women's only spaces. And the fact that they freak out so hard about it, that should concern you. It should concern you when you see a bunch of mentally ill dudes with blue long hair, with painted fingernails and lipstick freaking out about not being able to use the women's restrooms. Because the reality is, it's sexual for them. Okay? The reality is, this is part of their kink. They get off on using these women's only spaces. It's all sexual to them. It's not just a normal part of their life. When they go into the bathroom, it's not just to pee or to take a dump. No, there's something. I don't even want to get into details, but it literally turns them on. These people love it. And you can tell. Look at how violent they're getting. This is not about taking a dump, folks. This is about so much more to them. And if you ask me, this should just be the first step. Yeah, Capitol Hill, ban these weirdos from the bathrooms in Capitol Hill. But we need to protect our kids. That's what we need. I don't care about these politicians. But let this show you. This is crystal clear. The politicians are willing to protect themselves, okay? They're willing to protect the women on Capitol Hill from these other dudes who pretend to be women. But where are these bills when it comes to our kids? Like, yeah, it's a good step that you're banning these weirdos from the bathrooms and locker rooms on Capitol Hill, but we need this implemented in the real world where people are really affected. Where women are assaulted, where women are taken advantage of, where women are made to feel uncomfortable, where little girls are made to feel uncomfortable. That's what we need to worry about. So what we see happening on Capitol Hill, we need to see this on a national level. We need to see this within our schools. We need to see this within our public shopping areas, you name it. But for now, you let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell. And if you find yourself getting too worked up by all of this, remember, it's just political cinema.